On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
All right, everybody, today's episode of the podcast is going to be another group episode. I'm going to have the guys introduce themselves, and then we'll get going. So just name, org, position within the org, and then we'll get going. So we'll go Taylor first, Wes second.
All right, Taylor Rhoades, Major League Strength Conditioning Coach with the Houston Astros.
My name is Hazael, Wessin, Major League Strength Coach from the Houston Astros.
So today's theme is going to be the World Series winner. I did this last year with the Braves guys. I got good feedback. I had a lot of fun doing it and trying to make this like a yearly thing. And obviously you guys won it this year. The Astros have been on an absolute tear over the last, whatever it is, 5, 6, 10 years. However, it feels like it's forever. But I mean, first and foremost, congrats to you guys for winning it. Like I said, watching you guys from afar, you guys have just been an absolute force. And obviously, I'm very close with Eric and just, connecting with him throughout the season and just watching you guys make the run that you did. It was cool to see for all you guys and, maybe someday it'll be us, but right now it's you guys. So just kicking it off, what do you guys think helped the most to lead to the success that you achieved? And then maybe specifically in terms of the strength and conditioning staff and like your involvement with the baseball staff, things like that.
I'll go first. I think one big thing that, led us to success this year is just collaboration with the coaching staff. I think that was a massive piece that both Wes and I had a lot of collaboration and communication on a daily basis with pretty much all of our coaches. I thought that was a very integral part in what we did. And then you can't, you'd be remiss to not talk about the players, the buy-in, them committing to, the process and what Wes and I are driving is definitely a big part in it.
Yeah, on my part, I believe 100% on that. We made it very clear at the beginning of the year, starting in spring training, that, the expectations we had with that group of people, with that group of players. It was, it was not easy at the beginning, but we just, kept doing it. And of course, the coaching staff helped us a lot. You can't do anything at that level without having the coaching staff on your side. So I think consistency, made it very clear, this is what we expect from you guys. I had some of those guys in the minors, Taylor did too, so that actually helped a lot just to build that relationship. But for me, it was just, since the beginning of spring training started, all right, guys, this is what we want, and we made it really clear. Players didn't have a problem doing it. So.
Yeah, from afar, I can kind of see just the culture that's been created over there and, some of the players that have been around in your org for a while and just how they go about their business, how they prepare every day. And it just seemed like everybody was on the same page, just watching you guys from, like I said, from afar. And I keep thinking about that video at the end where everybody runs over to Dusty and gives him a big hug and you guys start cheering. And it just looked like there was a lot of unity within the staff. And for me, I think that's a big part of the game nowadays. I think the coaching staff comes to the strength coaches for a lot. In return, we go to them, for things for the players and things like that. And ultimately putting the players at the front is really what we're there for. And you can tell that you guys did that. And then kind of along those lines, just discuss the relationship that you two have and then your day-to-day roles and how you divide things up successfully between the two of you.
Yeah, so Wes and I both have now been in the Astros for, I'm going on my 10th year. Wes, what is this, 8 for you?
9.
Ninth for Wes. Yeah, so we've been with the org for a while, climbed the ranks together. We have a lot of unity and a lot of this shared vision, which is very, very important. And just on a day-to-day basis, we pretty much split it down the middle. I work predominantly with position players, where Wes works predominantly with pitchers, but Wes, obviously being from the Dominican Republic, helps with the Latin aspect. We have a heavy Latin presence on our team. And so Wes being fluent bilingual and being fluent in Spanish really helps drive our, values and purpose from the S&C standpoint through to those players, just so they can better understand what we do and why we do it.
Yeah, like you said, I think we met, I believe it was 2015 or 16. But I think, Taylor is the guy that's been with the longest period of time in our team right now, and I think I'm the second. So that actually helps a lot because, we've been through all the minor league levels that you can think of. So we know how it is in the minor leagues. And, once you get to the big leagues, you kind of, put together all those ideas and things that you experience at the minor league level. And that would, we have a good time working out together. So for me, I believe the main point is that when I got there and he told me I wanted to work with pitchers and I work with position players, at the beginning I was a little worried about, I would love to work with position player guys. And I was like, man, I'm not gonna get no reps working with middle infield guys, but it was not like that. I programmed for some position players that he programmed for some pitchers that he had the year before. So that actually worked pretty well for both of us. And I think I get reps on both sides, mainly with pitchers, but still with working with position players. So I think that worked perfectly for us this year.
Yeah, I think the people that are listening that may not know, usually when there's two strength coaches in the big leagues, there's always at least the way I see it, I don't want to say animosity, but there's an uncertainty of, am I going to work with this guy? Is this his guy? Is this my guy? I got position players, I got pitchers, but the reality is you work with everybody every day, especially, within the COVID times that we've been going through. And if one of the coaches goes down with COVID, the other one has to step in and really work with everybody. So Wes, to your point, I think when I got to the big leagues 2 years ago, that was kind of how I felt, was I don't know where I'm going to fit into this picture. And am I only going to take position players? Am I only going to take pitchers? Am I going to miss out on a group? But as I've been around, I think just seeing how it works on a day-to-day, at some point you interact with just about everybody during the day. And there are still some guys that, in the instance for me, they are quote unquote, Kiyoshi's guys, but that doesn't mean they won't come to me for help if they need something. If Kiyoshi's not around, I don't think they have any issue asking me for help. Right. And I would assume that's probably how it is with you guys too.
Yeah. And I'll throw it back out there is that I think one of the biggest things is collaboration and communication. And that's not only with, the coaching staff, but between Wes and I. We talk about programs every single day. What does this guy got? What does this other guy got? What are modifications we need to make? So we're always communicating and staying on top of everyone's programs. Whether I'm driving that program or Wes is driving it, it doesn't matter. We still stay up to date with who's got what.
And on top of that, how superstitious our guys are. So, I got my last with you, Wes, or you, Taylor. Let's do it again. We have to do it. So, just but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. To that point, when Kiyoshi went out with COVID this year, I had a couple of his guys, and I'm texting him what is your specific plan with this guy? Because I know how superstitious he is. He needs, get his belt adjusted perfectly, or he needs this exact amount of supplements, or he needs this specific shake. I'm sure you guys know how it is. And I think, Taylor, to your point, talking about collaboration and communication on a daily basis, I think that just makes things tick and just makes things run so smooth when the strength coaches are on the same page. I would say, Kiyoshi and I were really close before I even got to the big leagues. But now that I'm in the big leagues, we're really, really close, and we communicate about everything. And every night we sit down at the end of the game and just go over the plan for the next day and any potential things we might see that run into us. And you guys coming up through the system together and having been there so long, I'm sure that really helps you just connecting with players and staying on the same page. And, if somebody's got to hop out real quick, the other guy can hop in, no questions asked, and nobody thinks twice about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, us being together for so long has only helped what we've been able to grow within the Astros and helps us on a daily basis just because, like you said, if one guy, has to leave for whatever reason, then the other guy hops in and picks up right where we left off.
It was no problem the whole year with that. I don't remember anything, but they don't have a problem with any other guys. Just, it's family, we know each other for so long, players. It's my first year in the big leagues, but I've been coming to big league camp since 2020, I believe. So, I've seen some of the guys and some guys have seen me and they talk to me and we got a good relationship. So it was all good.
Yeah, for sure. So how about in terms of your strength and conditioning philosophy as a group? Just do you guys have a system that runs throughout your org? And then maybe more specifically like AA, AAA players as they're moving up and down, 40-man guys? Or is it more like strength coach dependent at each affiliate?
So yeah, we have basically pillars that we work off of throughout the entire organization. Obviously, as you go from the lower levels where it's more foundational and development wise, you drive towards the AA, AAA, big league level where it gets a lot more specialized and individual. But yeah, we have pillars that we go off of throughout the entire organization that we build everything off of. And then from there, especially at the upper levels, we kind of customize some things. Now from AA, AAA, and the big leagues, obviously Wes and I will have our hands in majority of the 40-man stuff, but we'll also help out where needed for the AA and AAA coaches with individual, ideas or individual modifications if something comes about.
I believe that something that really helped us through, I want to say more than starting at AA, AAA, and the big leagues is, we created different templates to program for guys, and each strength coach have a copy of that. And based on that template, we all program the same, which is, change ideas and incorporate some things if some guys more specialized than other guys. So that would change the program a little bit, but we believe a lot as a team. Since I started working for this team, we believe a lot and we push a lot of make sure you get a good prep, and we believe a lot of make sure the guys know the importance of having a good prep before doing anything. Not just lifting, not just playing the game. Just once you go to the stadium, you get you eat, you do whatever you want to do. Okay, before we go outside, make sure that you come to the weight room and do something. That's something that really helped us a lot the last couple of years and in the minor leagues too. So for me, that's one of the main pillars that we work. And I have seen since I started working with this team, just prep, trying to preach on that as much as we can.
Yeah, I just like to ask this question because I know different orgs do different things. And, for myself here, just going through the ranks of the minor leagues the same way you guys did and just seeing our program develop, we're on a very similar page. We have templates that we use throughout the system, and it's constant communication between our strength staff all the way through from, the FCL all the way up to the big leagues and, getting on Zoom calls and making sure everybody's on the same page. And so it's good to hear that you guys are in a similar boat. And then to Wes, to your point, talking about preparation and routines, I think that is a big thing that is going to be tapped into more in the game. It's just a lot of us have very similar thoughts on the X's and O's of the strength and conditioning, the training, the actual conditioning, things like that. And I think where you make some of your money really is just on the other stuff outside of the weight room, being, pre-cage routines or pre-throwing routines or pre-warm-up routines. And then even to your point, Wes, like when you get to the ballpark, what to eat, just individualizing and tailor those to each guy to the point that you have, almost their whole day mapped out for them. And something I've kind of found throughout is just like, guys kind of like to be told what to do and where to be and not have to think about it. And if you have, a good plan for them and it brings them results, they're just going to keep coming back and they're going to trust you. And so for me, when Kiyoshi and I talk, the two things we really want to do are create a good environment and have a quality program so that we can get results, so that it brings guys in when we have the environment and then the program keeps them there with the results. Is that kind of similar to what you guys are doing on your side? within the whole organization. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I think our programs are done really well. I think we're collaborative in those programs, and we have the modifications and the individualization to make the changes where needed. But I agree with, the players have to buy into the program. And I think if they get results from that program, they're going to keep coming back, and it's only going to help the buy-in. So I think, to your point, you definitely have to build an environment where players want to be there and they have to see results. And if you can't give them results, then they're not going to come in. So giving them feedback and showing them objective performance results will, help them buy into your S&C program even more.
Just, the last thing for me is like every player is different. Like a great example is when we got Vasquez from you guys. He's a guy that he likes to do something every day. He likes to make sure that he's ready to do something every day. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. Just come in, get his prep, get his workout, and go out, go hit, do whatever you want to do. So I think like as a strength coach at the big leagues is where you see it the most. Is you got to be able to be open and understand like everybody's different. Each guy is different, and what works for Vasquez probably doesn't work for Maldonado, just to throw somebody in. So you gotta remember yourself all the time. Like everybody's different, but you have to think what works for this guy. And if we find something that works for you, we gotta make sure that you stick to the plan. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think especially the higher up you go with guys coming from other organizations and different styles per se, is just finding whatever works for them and being consistent with that, right? I think the consistency is really the key, especially in the big leagues. It's just such a long season, very taxing, the travel, the schedule, everything. And I think the way to really, quote unquote, hack that is just finding consistency in your routine. And so a lot of guys buy into our specific program and what we like to do. But there are guys that don't, and that's okay. As long as we find what their routine is and what works for them and just hold them accountable and make sure they're consistent, I think that's the biggest thing. And that goes a long way. And a lot of those guys appreciate it, to be honest, is when you take the time to understand their specific routine and really hold them to it. And I think for me, that's been a big thing, is just, hey, you're not going to follow our program, but I'm going to make sure you stay on top of yours. And then the guy comes in like, I don't really feel like doing this. Like, no. You follow your own program. That's fine, but we're going to stay on top of this. So it's good that, on a side note, that Vasquez came over and continued his work. I'm happy to hear that as well.
Oh, yeah. He did it, man. He made sure I did a program for him. And he was like, hey, this is what I did with the guys over there. I was like, all right. Let's do it. Let's keep doing it. So we did it the entire time he was there.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a great guy. So I'm happy for him on a personal level. And obviously I'm glad that he continued his work over there. So kind of going along the lines of just accountability and things like that, when guys move up and down, do you have a checks and balances system of just, we talk about guys coming from other organizations and following programs. Like, how do you guys handle when guys are moving up and down and the communication and just making sure that those guys stay on top of the things that they've been doing?
Yeah, so we have like a transfer form, essentially, is what it is, between the major leagues and AA, AAA, which are usually the areas that we deal with. But yeah, we have that form that outlines pretty much any type of prep corrective exercise that we've given that individual player. Obviously, their lifting template and the program that they're currently on, and then we follow up this form with a phone call to, the lower level S&C coach to discuss any of the miscellaneous things that go on, whether it's nutrition or athletic training stuff or, prehab, rehab type exercises, just the small nitty gritty stuff that doesn't get just dumped onto this paper and lost, or this transfer form and lost. We talk with that coach individually on it. And usually it's a collaborative approach with the athletic trainer and S&C coach and minor league dietitian if, there's one at that level. But we bring everybody that's had their hands on the player into these conversations and kind of pass that player off, and vice versa. When they come up from either AA or AAA, usually those S&C coaches and athletic trainers and dietitians will do the same exact thing with us and kind of make sure we're on par with what they've been doing.
Yeah, and just get on the phone too. And sometimes that's really hard. I'm talking, my personal experience, like just with the big league schedule and how things are. Everything is so fast that sometimes we forget to pick up the phone and just call the guy and just talk to their AAA, AA strength coach, whoever is working with the player, and just get any information. Like sometimes the most basic information about players is the one that helps you the most once you have it on your team. And this stuff, in the big leagues, and you experience the same thing in AAA when you have guys that come up and down. That's when you really have to think like how I can keep these guys to stay ready just in case something happens. And sometimes it goes up to the big leagues and doesn't play for 6 days. How I'm going to go about when he comes back here, or if we get a guy that has been playing every day in AAA and he comes to us and he plays once every week. Got to make sure that Taylor did a great job with that, and just pulling guys on the side and make sure they get their sprints in, position player guys, and make sure they're hitting those, intensities. And whenever the game situation happened, they were ready. So that's something that you got to be able to stay on top, because it can get really, really fast in the big leagues, and a lot of things can happen in just one game or 2 games. So just staying on top of that, make sure guys, even if they're not playing, they make sure they still lift in, make sure they get their work in, and whenever their opportunity comes, they're ready. So yeah.
Yeah, another thing to add on top of that is like I said, and like Wes said, getting on the phone and talking with those other S&C coaches or athletic trainers, because as you know, Chris, a lot of players come to us about things, whether it's stuff that happens at the field or it's personal stuff. And the personal stuff is a lot of the stuff that gets overlooked, whether it's they're not sleeping good at home, or they just had a kid, or, they're struggling with X, Y, and Z outside the field. Those things truly do matter, and they affect performance. And so the phone call to the S&C coach or athletic trainer, dietitian, or whoever is very, very important, just to make sure you cover all the bases and get those other people up to par with what's going on with that player.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen both sides of it, right? I've spent some time in AAA, and I've had a couple of years in the big leagues. And it was like when the guys were going up from AAA, my goal was always to beat the strength coaches in the big leagues to it. So it's like 1 a.m, hey, we got a player going up, like I'm going to text them. Even if they're not awake, like when they wake up, they'll have this information so that when they get to the ballpark and they see this guy, like they know what to expect. They know what he's been doing, this and that. And then on the other side, just Wes, like you said, things speed up really fast in the big leagues. And sometimes it's hard to find that time to get on the call, but you shoot him a text, hey, this is what I got. This is the basic stuff. Like if you need, we'll get on a call later. And then you follow up with that and you get on that call, and then you discuss all of that stuff that you're talking about, Taylor. Like putting all of that information together really helps. And then also you guys alluded to just some of those guys come up and then they slip through the cracks and they haven't played in a week and they haven't really done anything. They're not running, they're not lifting. And then all of a sudden their number gets called and they're like, "Ooh, I'm not ready to play," right? Like for me, those are subtle victories that you need to have, right? Like you need to keep those guys on schedule. You need to keep them running. You need to keep them prepared. And obviously to the extent of like being fully ready to play in a major league game versus just, running some sprints or some half gassers or whatever is not even close to the same. But if we can minimize how big that difference is when they do finally get in the game, I think that's a huge, huge win. And then, when they go back down to AAA, they've seen the culture that you've created in the big leagues. And they're like, I can speak from this year's experience. There's a couple of guys that came up and they're like, "Oh, I didn't think you guys actually did this. I thought this was a AAA thing." And we're like, "Yeah, no, we do this here too." And they're like, "All right, well, I'll take it more serious." And then they go back to AAA and the AAA guys letting us know like, "Hey, this guy's locked in now. Like, thank you for talking to him there." So I think that relationship between the AAA staff and the major league staff is really, really vital. Everybody takes care of the studs, right? The primary guys, right? You look after the top guys, but those guys that come up and sometimes, fill the gaps or whatever, like those guys become really, really important in the long run. And having that quality depth and having them, being able to step in and perform, I think is a huge thing. And it sounds like you guys were pretty on top of that this season. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big part. And we all know, like, if you've been in baseball, that depth is key into winning in the duration of a long baseball season. We play 162 games in 182 days or something like that. Like, you need depth. Everything's not going to go to plan. You have to have some luck on your side sometimes. But the injuries are going to happen. Things are going to happen. You need players to be able to step up when their number's called. And I think our job as S&C coaches is to prepare our players as much as we can to maximize the potential when they get their number called.
The one thing that I think we did really well too was we made sure that you always have guys that don't play that much, and you have pitchers that don't throw that much that often. So we did a really good job just making sure that those guys still coming into the weight room and getting their lift. Like, we have guys relievers lifting 2 or 3 times per week, because they were not pitching that much. And we have infielders and outfielders lifting 3-4 times per week because, we did a specific program for them. It was nothing like it was going to be short for 4 days, nothing like that. But I think, like, really on the, since we have a long season, 162 games, we have to have guys ready, like you said, to give the studs some time to recover and take some days off and make sure they stay on top. So I think we really did a good job of that too, just making sure that the guys that don't get enough game reps, we're getting enough reps inside of them.
Yeah, sometimes that's. Oh, go ahead, Taylor.
I was going to say, and to your point, just building the culture of hard work and stuff that happens at, the AAA level also happens at the big league level, and vice versa. I mean, we get a lot of guys that come up from the AAA level and they see, the culture that we've created at the big league level with our players and the work that they do. And they're like, oh man, like, we don't do any of this at the AAA level in terms of prep and preparation, and seeing some of these guys' daily routines, like, down to the minute. And then they start creating their own routine, which only helps drive what you're trying to do. And you have to tip your cap to those veteran players and the culture that they've also created at the major league level for these young guys to come up and then take what, they learn in the 2 or 3 weeks, month, whatever it is that they're there, and then take it back to AAA level. It only helps what we do as S&C coaches.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, is to the point there is, like, it's almost a hard conversation to have sometimes, because some of the guys that are playing every day, your studs, your horses, like, they almost take the prep and the workouts and the conditioning more seriously than the guys who are not playing. And it's a hard conversation to have with, like, I see both sides, right? Like, hey, I got to play again today. Like, I got to do everything to get my body ready, so I need a good routine, versus, hey, I haven't played in 4 days. Like, why do I need to do this? Right. But the other side is, like, at some point, that guy that plays every day is going to need a day off, and we need you to be ready to do this. And I think, again, to your point there, Taylor, is like, when the AAA guys come up and they see the veteranos really taking care of their business, it's very eye-opening for some of them, to the point is like, oh, I haven't even done close to this much. Like, this guy's playing, shortstop tonight, or second base, or center field, or whatever. And, like, he's been here since this time getting ready. Like, he's taking it serious, and I'm kind of just showing up and playing catch and going. So it's, if you create the culture the right way, and those guys come in, and it's usually a positive experience for them, right? It doesn't shut them away to, like, damn, I don't belong here. It's more of like, oh, okay, I need to step my game up and, like, get ready here. And then when they go back to AAA, it's like, guys, they're doing this in the big leagues. Like, let's do this. So it's kind of like a positive circle of reinforcement there. But I think you guys really nailed it on the head there. Just, taking care of your depth and making sure that they're ready to go in the long season. Like, injuries are inevitable in our game, right? And, at some point, somebody's number is going to be called that maybe you didn't expect, and either they rise to the occasion or they don't. But to your point, Taylor, like, our job is to prepare them to play and to maximize the potential whenever their number is called. So I couldn't agree more with you guys on this one. So
I think one more thing there is just having the collaborative approach with your coaching staff and understanding what each guy's role is very important, because at the major league level, you still want to develop, and I'll tip my cap to our veteran players again. Like, these guys are, some of the best in the world, and they want to continue to develop on a daily basis, and they do things on a daily basis to get better. And some of those young guys come up from AAA and they think, oh, these guys just go out and play a baseball game every single day. Well, that's not what it is. Like, behind the scenes, these guys are working to improve every single day. And yeah, they may be all-stars, they may be, world champions and world-class players, but they're continually getting better at their craft. And I think that's eye-opening to a lot of the young guys.
Yeah, to me, that was eye-opening. It's just, when I got to the big leagues, just how obsessed some of these guys are with getting better every single day. And I tell this to people all the time, right? It's like, most people just see what goes on at 7 p.m. when the game starts, but they don't see all the work that goes into it behind the scenes. And they don't see, the Gold Glove winner, like how many ground balls he's still taking every day, because whether he's nervous somebody's going to catch him, or he's obsessed with getting 1% better, whatever it is that motivates him, like, those guys are just horses. And it's almost to the point that, like, you have to pull them back to protect them from themselves sometimes, right? It's like, hey, today, like, you really need to tone it down. Like, no, I'm going out and taking more ground balls. Like, all right, well, then you have to shift your plan, right? Like, all right, this guy's going to come in a little bit beat up because he's been doing this extra stuff to get better. How do I adjust my plan for him? And that's okay, right? That's part of the gig for us, is just being adaptable and being able to adjust on the fly. And I think the best coaches can do that really well, and understand the situation and what's going on. And to your point, like, understanding what role each guy has, and just maximizing the program to that guy and to his role within the team.
Absolutely.
And just one thing, having veteran guys on your side actually helps a lot, because we had a couple situations where one of our veteran guys put one of our rookie guys to the side. I was like, hey, I'm hearing this about you. Make sure that you get your work in. If not, I'm going to go again and check on you. And after that, everything took off with that play. It was a different guy. Just 2-minute conversation from a veteran player can change anything about how you want a rookie guy to go about his business. So that's actually pretty good to have those guys on your side.
Yeah, it's kind of like your dad, right? Like, your dad tells you something and he's probably right, but you just don't want to listen to him. And then somebody else tells you the exact same thing, and you're like, yeah, that guy's right? Like, we're going to tell these guys, yeah, you need to stick to your lifting, you need to stick to your prep, you need to do your running. But, like, that's our job to do that. So they're like, like, you're just saying that because that's your job. But then a veteran steps in and tells them, and it's like, oh shit, I better get my act together here, right? So I couldn't agree more. And it sounds like you guys just had a really good blend of just veterans who really do genuinely care, and young kids that were able to just step in when their number was called. And it's cool that you guys played a part in that, and obviously it led you to the ultimate success.
All right, buddy, that's going to conclude part 1 of our 2-part episode with the World Series champs. I hope you enjoyed this one. Part 1 was a lot more of just keeping players in line, keeping players accountable, and collaboration with the skill coaches and the sports staff. Where part 2 will be a lot more of a dive into the actual season, spring training, and adjusting from the lockout, the regular season, and then ultimately their postseason run and winning the World Series. So you'll enjoy that one. I hope you enjoyed this one. 3 things that I took from the guys in this episode: collaboration with the skill staff goes a long way at the highest level. Providing feedback and objective performance results will help with buy-in to your strength and conditioning programs. And find what works for a player on an individual level and try to keep him as consistent as possible with that plan. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.